drum, hit your whole body go crack. Let the baseline move, take it off of the map. We rock vibes every time we break. Boom, boom, rap, yeah, we got it like that. Kick drum, hit your whole body go crack. Let the baseline move, take it off of the map.
What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of the Heatcheck. I am your host, Jaydee Dyer, and there's so much NBA news to catch you up with. Look, all the teams have finally reported to the bubble in Orlando. We bring you the latest as the teams begin to settle in. There's an update from the league as well as the latest superstar test positive for the COVID-19 and what impact that could have on the restart. And speaking of the restart, we'll bring you the latest breakdown of the listings here at Sky Sports as the NBA live action begins to return. And joining me on the show to discuss all of the news is one of the best young writers across the world for NBA action. That is Mr. Mooncey. The newest signings for Le Mans. Yes, Mr. Ovie, Soko, and one of the most impactful people in the NBA across the last 3 decades, both on and off the court, BJ Armstrong. Gents, this feels good to have you back. How you been?
Good. Great to be here. And I'm excited to get things going today. I'm sure we have a lot to talk about. Get in the bubble and let's get after it. Let's get this heat check.
Yes, sir. We're getting closer and closer, man. I'm getting more and more excited. You know what I'm saying? We're almost there. It's almost time for the games to start. So I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, it feels like everything that's just been talked about for so long now, it's finally about to happen. We're about to see it go down. We're about to, hopefully, crown a new NBA champion this year. And yeah, man, everything's about to get on the way. So it's an exciting time.
Well, gents, look, let's catch the fans up with the latest news that's been happening around the league. And where bigger to start than the news regarding Russell Westbrook, the Rockets guard, has tested positive for the COVID-19. He took to social media to make a statement about his health. Look, I tested positive for the COVID prior to my team's departure to Orlando. I'm currently feeling well, quarantined, and looking forward to rejoining my teammates when I am cleared. Thank you all for your well wishes and continued support. Please take this virus seriously. Be safe, mask up, #why not. Look, let's just take a moment to thank God that the bird is all good. But Ovie, what's your initial response to Russell's positive test?
Obviously we would have preferred that wasn't the case, but I can't say I'm surprised that one of the superstars came out and said they had COVID-19. Obviously, it's unfortunate, I think, for the Rockets. I'm sure Russell's waiting to get back on the court, but I think we should just be happy that he's feeling all right and hopefully he'll be able to get back with the team as soon as possible.
Look, BJ, I kind of look at the Rockets and say to themselves, look, 6th in the West at this moment in time, pushing for the best position possible going into the postseason. But naturally, this kind of hampers their chances. With so many teams within that sort of Western Conference that will be sort of jostling for positions, who would you like to see them or who would they prefer to be matched up with in the first round of the postseason?
Well, I think the Houston Rockets really feel that they are a team that they can contend this year for the championship. So they understand that they're going to have to, go through the best. Right now, the best team or on paper would be the LA Lakers. But you have the LA Clippers right there. Of course, you have the Denver Nuggets. And I think the Houston Rockets understand that if they're going to make a championship run, that they're going to have to beat the best team. So I don't think they're concerned with who they play. It's just now getting healthy. In addition, I'm not sure what the status is right now on James Harden, which has come up recently because he hasn't entered the bubble yet as of last night. So we'll see. But let's hope for a speedy recovery and hope things are well with the Brody. And talking about Russell Westbrook. But that's tough, but this is to be expected, and the COVID-19 is serious, like Russell said in his tweet there, and we have to take it seriously, and let's hope that he gets back and hopefully he'll get down there to play and continue doing what we've come to expect of watching Russell Westbrook.
Look, Mo, COVID-19 proves again that it doesn't show any discrimination. It doesn't matter who you are. Anybody can contract the virus, but I go to you and I asked you about these potential superstars contracting the virus. How do you think the league will respond if now we have entered the bubble, you do get another superstar in the midst of our season that contracts this virus?
I think, obviously a lot of these positive cases, they're coming from players who are yet to enter the bubble. I feel like if they get a lot of positive test results once they're inside, then it will be an entirely different conversation. To speak on if a superstar gets it, I don't think it matters whether you're a superstar or the 12th man on the end of the bench. If the NBA starts to see the numbers going up, then they'll have to take measures, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what role you play on the court. Your health is your health, and that's the most important thing here. And I think what this reminds everyone of at home is, as you were alluding to before, Russell Westbrook is one of the best athletes in the NBA. We're talking about power, we're talking about pace, we're talking about explosiveness. And if he can get it, then, everyone out there better be safe. You better be washing your hands, wearing a mask, and taking all the necessary precautions, because no one is immune to this.
Look, gents, as you said, no one is immune to it, Mo. So look, let's move on and discuss the ongoing conversation about the conditions of the NBA bubble itself. And it's fair to say there have been different opinions in terms from the players and the conditions. Some have leaked onto Twitter, some have leaked onto Instagram. Everything from the living arrangements, the quality of food, the amenity options are being discussed. But BJ, all things considered, when you look at life in the bubble, is it exactly as you expected?
Well, I have to really reach out and commend what the NBA has done and what they're trying to do. This has been some task that they've taken on, and to see the organization and the attempt to try to pull this off is, I think they need to be commended for that. Now, whether or not it can happen, whether or not they can, sustain this and get through the entire 3 or 4 month process, that's yet to be determined. But from everyone that I've spoken to down there, it's been nothing short of impressive of what they've done, the measurements, the attention to detail, and all the things they're trying to do. And give them credit for at least trying. And I think the players respect that. The players seem to making the proper adjustments and adjusting to life in the bubble, because in the end, I think these players want to have an opportunity to play. I think they are adjusting to this new normal, whatever that may be. And it's been an amazing attempt, nothing short of amazing, from everything that people that I've spoken to, players I've spoken to, executives. They said it's just incredible that the detail that they've gone through to all of the things they've tried to do in trying to pull this off down there in Orlando.
See, BJ, I love that energy. For real, I love that energy. And Ovie, I come to you because I want to talk about energies of players that I've seen. And I loved Pat Bev's response. I'm not going to lie. He said it straight. The bubble is what you make of it. It reminded me of you a little bit. I'm not going to lie. But what have you turned around and thought of your initial reaction to some of the things you've seen in the bubble?
I think this is the longer and longer it goes on, and the closer we get to, these guys actually playing, the more I'm starting to believe, whoever is actually able to pull this off and win a championship with all of this stuff going on around, it might very well be a tougher championship to win. I think this is really going to test the players' focus. It's going to test, who really wants it more, because these are situations that there is no blueprint on how to win in this situation. This is a kind of adversity that no one's ever faced before. No other champion has had to deal with this kind of stuff. So, whoever is willing to fight through that and see, obviously, the positive side of things all the way through to the end, man, I will really have a big-time respect for them. And I've got big-time respect for all of the players that, in a certain case, they are taking a risk and diving into this new situation with so much crazy stuff going on around. So, yeah, man, I do take my hats off to the guys, and, more power to them, man.
Mo, I come to you because you will know firsthand how hard sort of CP3 will be working as the president of the Players Association, and Michelle Roberts as well, who everyone calls Auntie Michelle because she looks after all of the players, and how much they would want to iron out these sort of concerns from the players so far. Do you feel like they are making the right steps and the right adjustments as the bubble will continue?
I think they most definitely are. I think, the NBA spent, I read on Twitter the other day that they've spent almost 200 million on this. And if you look at it, I've been watching a lot of the vlogs from the NBA players inside the bubble. So Matisse Thybulle of the Sixers, JaVale McGee of the Lakers, they've been giving fans a first-hand look of how things really are. Because it's easy to make a judgment from Rondo uploading a picture of his hotel room complaining, or someone complaining about the food. But when you actually, get that exclusive behind the scenes look, you can see what it's really like. And in my opinion, it's really quite nice when you actually take all factors into consideration. Add to that they're getting tested so often, etc. One could make a case that it's safer to be inside that little bubble than it is to be anywhere else in the world. So I think that the NBA, the Players Association, and the league itself have made fantastic steps into ensuring the safety of the players and making it a comfortable experience for the guys.
Well, we know the NBA are going to be hands-on with it, and you know they're going to be the most progressive league as they've always been to try and make sure the players are comfortable. But gentlemen, finally, I have another bit of news to catch you up with. It's been over a year since Jamal Crawford last played in an NBA game, despite the numerous campaigns on this show for his return. I mean, look, last time we saw him, he dropped a 50-piece for everyone to see. He's been neglected for so long, but no longer. Yeah, so justice has been served, and I can turn around and say to you, the Nets have agreed to sign him as a replacement player in the NBA bubble alongside Michael Beasley being another addition to that team. Mooncey, your thoughts on these additions?
Jaydee, I want you after the show to go to your bookshelf, take out a dictionary, and look up the definition of a walking bucket. Because if you do that, you will find a picture of Jamal Crawford firmly underneath that definition. Because the man, I'm convinced, you ever seen Uncle Drew commercials with Kyrie Irving dressed as an old man? That's exactly Jamal Crawford. He's an absolute bucket getter. As you said, he hit that 51 in that season finale. And he's also, alongside the legendary Kobe Bryant, may he rest in peace, one of the only players to record 3 consecutive 25-plus point games in their 19th season or later. He's timeless. He's ageless. He's going to go there. He's going to get buckets. He's the all-time leader in 4-point plays, so he's going to hit some shots. He's going to hit some crossovers. He might even hit a shake and bake. But having said all of that, I still don't see the Nets winning many more games than they would have originally. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to be a fun ride. It's going to be a fun ride, but Brooklyn fans, don't get your hopes up because he's going to score a bunch, but I know the defense ain't going to be stopping much either. So I'm excited. Beasley is an extremely talented player. And also the underrated factor is Beasley and KD are very close friends. So this is almost like a trial run for Bees that if he plays well now, you could see his contract extended to next season when KD returns.
BJ, I come to you because I love seeing these veteran shooters and, as they say, offensive threats, walking buckets, whatever you want to describe them as, make a difference. So the big question is, can they still make a difference for the Brooklyn Nets in that bubble?
Well, Jaydee, I think to see the smile on your face every time you say Jamal Crawford, that it's fair to say you are a fan of crossover. Jamal, I happened to be working in the front office for Chicago at the time when we drafted Jamal there. So that's been 19 years ago. And I just recently spoke to him a couple of days ago, and he was so excited. And I just want to say congratulations to him because I know all year he's been wanting this opportunity to play and to get back in the NBA. I don't know what kind of condition he is going to be in, but I do know we can guarantee that he's going to score 20 or more points. If there is a thing where the conditions and the environment will meet his talent, the more chaos that there is on the floor, Jamal will thrive in this. He will thrive in this kind of setting where it's kind of, I would imagine it's going to be a little freelance. It's going to be a little bit of getting in shape. Well, Jamal is going to have fun doing that for sure. And, Michael Beasley is also one of those players offensively that he can play isolation basketball. So I think those two will score a lot of points. I don't know defensively how that's going to look, but certainly the fun factor with Jamal Crawford on the floor will be great. And I'm hoping that he scores 50 because you know what? I want to see the behind the back, the crossing over, the shot making and all of those things because he is really, really fun to play. And when he played out here for the Clippers, I would go to the game just to see him score and do things. So, and he's a great guy. And so good for him. And but I can't wait to see him play.
Incredible addition. That's all I'm going to say. Ovie, as you know, no KD, no Kyrie, no Spencer Dinwiddie either, no DeAndre Jordan will be in that bubble for Brooklyn. How important are these additions actually going to be from both a veteran perspective and obviously from a scoring perspective in that bubble?
I think from a scoring perspective, Jay Crossover, he's one of the guys who's he's up there with some of the best of them. When you talk about scoring the basketball, I don't think there's too many players that can naturally score quite as easily as he can. He's going to put up points. I think Beasley, he adds another offensive element to the team. But like these two guys have said, I don't know how much of that actually translates into winning games. And at this point where all of the teams, they're fighting for something and everyone's playing, serious basketball at this point in the season, I don't know if that's enough to quite get it done for Brooklyn, to be fair. But they are great additions and it's going to be fun to watch them.
Look, for the younger viewers, if you take anything from this show, go and type in Jamal Crawford on YouTube or Michael Beasley, and you will see exactly why we are excited to see them back in the league. But gentlemen, let's jump into our favourite segment where opinions and facts are all that matters. Let's do Hot or Not. Look, welcome to Hot or Not, guys. As always, this is the part where look, it's about to get real hot in here. So I think I've got 3 hot takes this week. That's solid takes, and I think I'm going to have unanimous votes across the board, but I say that every week. So, first up, it's been a hard start to the bubble for the Lakers. No Avery Bradley, as we all know, and this was coupled with even worse news at the back end of last week with Rajon Rondo fracturing his thumb. Look, we're expecting him to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. But BJ, people have questioned Rondo's impact this season, and I need them all to really understand who playoff Rondo is. So my first hot take to you is, this injury really diminishes the Lakers' chances this year because no Rondo means even more playing time for LeBron James, which equals no rest.
I think this is a hot take, and I'm going to tell you why. Because even though Rondo is not playing significant minutes for the Lakers, his veteran presence in the locker room and what he does to organize that second unit is going to be missed. They've already missed a significant piece in Avery Bradley because of what he can do on the defensive end guarding those small guards. So now I think this is going to put an extraordinary amount of pressure, if you will, on LeBron James to do the following. Not only does he have to score, he's going to have to initiate the offense, and he's going to have to organize the team. And I think putting that type of pressure right now on Alex Caruso and the players that they've just acquired, I think is going to put a lot of stress on LeBron James, because LeBron James, you can really literally plug and play him. And what I mean by that is you can put him in positions doing whatever the game, however the game is being played that night. He can, be the wing player. He can be a scorer. You can drop him in the post. You can put him at the top of the key. But now he's going to have to organize the game. He's going to have to initiate the offense. And then, by the way, he's going to have to score some nights 30 or more points for them to win. So I think this is going to put more and more pressure on LeBron James and figuring out how the coaches are going to have to utilize him if they're going to win this championship. So it's, this one really is going to be tough because Rondo will be missed, because we know playoff Rondo, he's battle tested, and we know that he can organize the game. So I think this one here is going to hurt much more than people are talking about.
Look, Ovie, I want to come to you because Rondo is one of the few players in the league that can get his own offense going when LeBron needs a break and can really dictate. He is an old school point guard, which we don't see many left within this league. Do you not see the value that Rondo could bring, even though his statistically his stats are may not suggest it?
100%. Experience is something that you can't teach, and Rondo's got a lot of it, and at a championship level. Now, I really love this situation because right now we are literally seeing Mo's top point guard of all time have to actually play only the point guard position, which I think is probably going to be the case for the most of the time LeBron's out there. So, from what Mo said, everyone's going to be able to see it play out now. Because if he is the greatest point guard of all time, this loss of another point guard really shouldn't hurt as much. And Caruso should, in theory, be able to just slot in behind him and play sort of garbage minutes at the point guard position. But like I've said before, because he is someone who has the ability to play point guard, but I wouldn't say LeBron James was a point guard. He can make point guard plays, but now 48 minutes every single night, that's what he has to now do. He has to be worried about everyone else on the floor. He has to be the coach on the floor. He has to do all these things. So this is a really, really hot take, man. I do feel like they are a super talented team, but this loss of Rondo is going to hurt them big time. So Mo, what you said, we're all going to be able to see it now. We're all going to be able to see it.
You know what I love? You know what I love?
All's in your court. All's in your court.
Do you know what I love the most about this situation? Ovie's moving to France, but I'm still living rent-free in his head. Because we're talking about the Lakers. We ain't got to worry about what Mo thinks. We're talking about the basketball on the court. Right now, Jaydee, I'm going to tell you right now that this is a cold take. The reason for this is you're saying no Rondo equals no rest for LeBron. What you need to know is LeBron wasn't planning to rest anyway. This is what he does. This is what he's built for. He's dragged guys like Mozgov and Dellavedova to the NBA Finals. You think with AD on the team, he's going to want to be on the bench. LeBron's been resting. You know what happens when LeBron has a chance to rest. He just refuels, re-energizes. He's going to be back even better than before. So he wasn't planning to rest. Anyway, we're going to see LeBron. It's the playoffs. He's going to be trying to play that 40 minutes a night because that's what he does best. He's got that insane work rate and that insane physique, that he can just keep going even when everyone else is tired. Now, the reason why I don't think this situation is as bad as people think is what you need to know about Rajon Rondo is he's one of the toughest guys in the NBA. We're talking about the guy who got his elbow broken by Dwayne Wade. During a game, we all saw it, his arm flipped completely the other way. He carried on playing using just his left hand, and he was still making plays, and he was still scoring. So this broken hand is only going to keep him out, I reckon, until the second round. So the Lakers really only have to get through one playoff series against the 8th seed without Rajon Rondo, who wasn't a huge help to them in the regular season anyway. So they're not going to have playoff Rondo until the second round. Now, the beauty of this is guys like J.R. Smith, who's new to the team, Alex Caruso, who hasn't been on the big stage before, Dion Waiters, who hasn't had many minutes with the team, KCP, who might be a bit rusty. They're going to have that first round against the 8th seed, against a team who the Lakers should beat comfortably even without Rondo. They're going to be able to get their reps in, get up to game speed, get more familiar with the system, and so that they can be better placed for when Rondo comes back in the second round. He has a basketball IQ just as high as LeBron's. He's one of the most intelligent basketball players on the planet. So he's going to be able to slot right back into the team and bring that playoff Rondo energy. So I think, it might even, to help the other guys get acclimated with the rest of the squad and get their minutes in, it might even help them to extend their run to the finals.
Well, Mo, let me ask you this.
Can I just please.
Mo, let me ask you this. One of the greatest assets of having a LeBron James is his versatility that he brings to the game because he is so versatile as a player. Now he's even playing the power forward position on a fairly consistent basis at this stage of his career. If I exclusively just put him at the point guard position, doesn't that take away some of his effectiveness on what he brings and how he can impact the game? And I think that is what's being underestimated here is because you're going to need other players for 15 to 20 minutes during the course of a 48-minute game to do other things to alleviate some of the pressure off. Because if you exclusively just make LeBron James the point guard, I think you take away of really what makes him into a special player because he does so many things during the course of the game.
But you're saying LeBron plays the power forward, but Anthony Davis plays the power forward. He doesn't like being the 5-man. So the Lakers, that's why they signed JaVale. And that's why it was so key to them that Dwight Howard came and played. Because AD wants to be at that 4 spot with the defensive big man, the shot blocker, and someone who can grab the rebounds alongside him down there. So it would really be LeBron playing the 3. And, LeBron playing the 3, you would just have 2 guys in the backcourt, a Danny Green, KCP, that are just shooters anyway. So LeBron playing the 1 or the 3 is interchangeable because whether you call him a point guard or not, point forward or however you want to describe him, he would be doing that role anyway. So you see, for one series, if you're telling me it's going to take a toll on LeBron for what should be 4 games against the 8th seed, because really, if it's the Grizzlies, they should be sweeping them out of the first round. If it's the Pelicans, it might be a little bit tougher, but it shouldn't be a problem for the Lakers. And then Rondo comes back. So that's why I'm not worried, because then when Rondo comes back in the second round, he can let LeBron have that rest and he can be that primary facilitator and that primary ball handler orchestrating that second unit. But, I don't think it would be different if Rondo was out for the entire playoffs, but they're saying 6 to 7 weeks, maybe as a worst case scenario. That's why I'm not worried. If Rondo was out for the whole thing, I would completely agree with what you're saying. But because I think he's going to come back sooner than expected, I think they've just got to win 4 games without him.
And last question. So You're saying Rondo's played garbage minutes the whole year, pretty much. He's on the second half, probably the back end of his career. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but he's on the back end of his career, and he's going to come back from a broken hand, and he's going to be at the level he was at in the first half of his career after not really playing all year long at a playoff level. That's what you said, right?
I'm saying Rajon Rondo is one of only 7 players since 1974 to increase their points, assists, rebounding, blocks, and steals when it gets to the postseason. That's only, you got to deep it. 7 guys in the last 50 years have increased their numbers.
I hear that.
When the stages,
Shout out to
when
Draymond
the
Green on
lights
that
are
list as
brightest,
well.
when the lights are brightest, that's when Rondo shows up. And I'm not saying we're going to see Rondo from 2010. Of course we're not, because he's not that young player anymore.
Yeah.
But what we're going to see is a veteran with championship experience from winning NBA championships. And you've got to also factor in this. Even when he's not playing, he's providing immense value to the team because he's going to be on that sideline. He's going to be coaching the guys. He's going to be helping them to step up. So Rondo's impact is going to be immeasurable. It's not just going to be what he brings when he's on the court. You're going to see Rondo helping to elevate his teammates and make them even better players while he's not there.
And one gentleman, and I know BJ, you go on, BJ.
I just want to make this. And living out here in LA, I get a chance to watch this team a lot, and because small ball is a real thing. They play Anthony Davis in particular at the end of the game at the 5 position, almost exclusively to counter this small ball thing that we're currently seeing. And then another one of the things on the offensive end with Rondo is he is a playmaker, meaning he throws lobs, creates opportunities for other guys. With LeBron is really the only other player that can create offense for these other guys on the floor. I just think this is going to put an enormous amount of pressure on him, but we'll see how this play out. But I just want to point those things out because at the end of the games, when the other teams go small, in particular these teams like the Houston Rockets, and these teams are moving and playing this pace and space, they utilize Anthony Davis exclusively as a stretch 5. And I don't think anyone has a player that can really do the things that he does when he brings it to 5. Not all the time, but when they do put him over there, I think that's what makes him unique and makes this Laker team a very unique team.
Well, if anybody
I think close games, though,
as you said, if anybody can pull this off, and Mo, I'll hark back to you, thinking back to Dellavedova, it's LeBron James. That's the one thing we can turn around and say. If anybody can put the championship mentality together and bring that Lakers team with him, it is King James. But it's something that we'll be able to revisit later on in the conversation as the episodes of Heatcheck continue. So what I would like to say now is moving from an older star to some of the younger stars that happen in the league. And everyone's talking about, I don't know, all the things that's going on inside the bubble. We've seen all of the younger stars thinking about all the things they're going to do to entertain themselves. I've seen the gaming consoles. I've seen the iPads. I've seen the FaceTime conversations. But whereas the older guys have kind of been sharing a sort of a different sort of opinion, talking about the amenities, the difference away from their families, and let's say some of the living conditions. Look, Ovie, you brought it up first of all, so I want to come back to you straight away. You spoke about that AAU comparison. But as we're getting closer and closer to this bubble, my hot take to you is I think the younger stars will actually thrive a lot more in this bubble than maybe some of the older statesmen.
I don't know. I think that's a cold take. That's a chilly one for me. And I say that because, the young guys might have the little gadgets and all these things to keep them entertained. But really, all you're telling me is that you're forcing guys that are extremely motivated, high-level athletes, veterans in the league, to focus even more at the task at hand, which could get really scary if you start talking about, LeBron going into a whole nother level of focus, Kawhi going into another level of focus, and these guys being extra tuned in because there is no family around, there's nothing else. It is them in the game. I think it could actually swing in the opposite direction. So, I feel like the young guys are going to enjoy it and they'll probably see it more as an AAU kind of thing. But, the big dogs, the older statesmen are They're there for business. It's a business trip for them.
I like that, a business trip. Mo, look, the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, the Pelicans, they're three of the youngest teams in the NBA, and they're three of the teams that are still going to be pushing and saying that maybe we can cause a surprise in this bubble. I ask you, with their age factor being taken into consideration, do you think maybe they have a slight advantage at all going into that bubble?
Well, what I've been hearing from guys around the league with regards to the situation with young players isn't so much to do with, the facilities and the amenities in terms of, downtime and their hotel room and the food or whatever it is. The perspective that I'm hearing is this, BJ, I'd love to get your opinion on this as well, because when you're a younger player, it's easier to just get up and play. As the years get on and there's more stress added to your body, it's often like it takes more to get ready for games. LeBron spends $1 million on his body every year. He has the top of the range chefs and trainers and physios and all of that. None of those things are going to be here in the bubble. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to impact him negatively because that's LeBron is LeBron, but I'm saying for maybe a few of the older role players, maybe they might be finding it harder, to kind of get up if they have, a back-to-back game or, not a lot of downtime to rest in between different fixtures. The facilities aren't just there. I mean, I've seen guys, they're getting their tapes done up in like converted hotel rooms when before they'd be in the physio's private facility. So, I could see the points that Ovie's making about the older guys locking in, but at the same time, it's going to be harder for them to recover from the impact on their bodies than the younger guys who've got fresh legs that can just get up and play. But I'll be interested to know, BJ, obviously, as your perspective of playing a long career in the NBA, how did you find it as your career progressed in terms of needing to take extra preparation to get ready to go on the court?
Yeah, I think you made a great point, and that's an excellent point. I think as you get older, it takes your body more and more time to adjust, especially to the pace of the game. Speed and quickness is one of the things that deteriorates with age. So I'm anticipating that it's going to take these older players a little time to adjust. And, I think playing in a place like Florida or like Orlando, where there's a lot of humidity, will assist as you get older. I love playing in Miami and Orlando when I was older because, I was getting a lather, right? Immediately than playing in the colder cities. So I think this will help. But, Father Time doesn't lose. And it's going to take a little time because it normally takes a veteran 20, 25 games to get himself into that type of condition. But in this case, they don't have 25 games. I mean, you playing 8 games, you're getting right into it. You're right into the playoffs. And I don't know what the rest time will be because this is a very unusual situation. In talking to the players down there, I was talking to a client and I asked him, what was the one thing about being in the bubble that, that's really kind of surprised you? And the answer was a very, I didn't anticipate this response. And he said, if you love the game, you're going to love being here because you have no excuses. He's like, BJ, as far from a basketball perspective, we have everything that we could possibly need right at our disposal. The court's right downstairs, the weight room's right there. The food is right there, and pretty soon we'll be able to get around. He said, every single thing that you can think of that we need physically, we have it right at our disposal. So I didn't anticipate that response, but it seems like this is a true basketball environment. And that's why, I said earlier, you have to really give the NBA credit. They've really thought of everything that these players are going to need to be able to be in this type of environment. Now, whether or not they can pull it off and they can sustain it, that's to be seen. But I'm really looking forward to the guys playing. I think these younger players will have an advantage because I don't anticipate these games being very organized. I think the games will probably be sloppy, especially at the beginning. And when you're younger, you have energy to burn. And I think these younger players will come out with all of this energy. And the older players, you'll find them looking around going, okay, I'm not just jumping to be jumping. But these guys like Ja Morant and Zion, and they'll be doing all types of things that, that young people, especially when you're younger, you will do. So I think it's going to give them an advantage, especially earlier on during this tournament.
Do you know,
BJ, how do you respond to? Go on, Ovie. I just wanted to know how BJ responded to Ja's comments about saying, "Look, I'm not a silver spoon sort of guy. I'm used to ramen noodles." So, I mean, that's one of the stars of this league. He still would have had a certain level of lifestyle, but he's still acclimatized to the AAU and that college lifestyle at the same time. So, I mean, does he have an advantage there at all?
Well, I think he does have an advantage when you're younger playing in this because, when you're younger, your life doesn't get as disrupted as easily as it is when you get older, right? When you get older, you have family, you have kids, you have wife, you have other things that you are responsible to. But when you're younger, it's just me. You don't have to think about all of those other things. Like one of the things I've been talking to clients about was, how did you guys pack for this? Like, how do you pack for like 4 months? And they're like, well, I just threw some t-shirts in, some shoes, and then I'll figure it out. Like, I can't do that right now. I have to think about a lot of different things. But these guys, that's why I love Patrick Beverley's post. He's like, I got some white tees. I'm good. That was like, that was great. That was like, because I was like, I just couldn't do that. But again, when you're younger, you adapt. And so I think these young guys will have an advantage over these older players. And I'm anticipating here, and I'll say it here, I'm anticipating some upsets. The first seed versus the 8th seed. I don't think that's a significant advantage in this type of setting.
So now, are we talking about upset? Like when we say advantage, what are we really talking about? Are we talking about an advantage that someone could get, deep in the playoffs, or are we talking about winning a game or two? Because that's going to happen. But when you're talking about veterans that know it's a must-win game, I don't think that young legs because it's about experience. We know when it gets to the playoff basketball, if we're talking about regular season and where it's just a lot of up and down and, really guys don't start playing hard until the fourth quarter, it's a total different thing, because, okay, your legs are really going to take a toll in that fashion. But now when you talk about playoffs, it's, there's a lot of hard fouls. There's a lot of change of pace. There's a lot of half-court basketball. So now when you're talking about half-court basketball, I really do think that experience, that's a huge factor. And now, just to piggyback on what you were saying, there is much more responsibility once guys get older. But now you're taking all of that stuff away from these vets. So they're not having to go home and play with the kids and, now have to be a daddy and a husband. And you're taking all of that out of the picture. Now it's, okay, sorry, babe, can't really do it. We here in the bubble. We in the bubble. No.
Is that a quote? Can we take that one? Is that a quote? Can we take that one?
Oh, you can take that. You can take that.
Sorry, babe, I'm in the bubble.
But this is,
These times I'm playing PlayStation, not replying, I'm gonna tell them all I'm in the bubble.
This is what we're talking about, though, guys. You're taking these responsibilities away from these veteran guys, and being a father, being a husband, all of these stuff is hard work. It is a full-time job being a parent. So now that these guys don't have all of these extra responsibilities, and really, if they really wanted to, they could go back into their hotel rooms and play games, but they probably won't. LeBron James is probably going to be looking at film when John Morant's playing on his double-screen PlayStation. You know what I'm saying? And this is why I say, okay, now you're talking about a different advantage, because even that downtime is different. Now it's really downtime. Veterans don't really get that downtime when they go home to, wife and kids. They don't get that. So, I really do think it's a double-edged sword we're talking about. And yeah, the young guys are going to have the recovery thing. But like you said, too, they're going to waste a lot of energy, too. So a lot of that recovery, how much of that energy are they really using?
Ovie has spoken like a true veteran. You've spoken like a true veteran today. But look,
I'm just telling you
this guy talks about energy every day. So if you're talking about energy, you got to Ovie.
I'm just playing the devil's advocate, man.
Look, moving on, no pun intended, but this NBA bubble is do or die time for certain franchises, as we just alluded to a second ago. And I think number one on that list, if we're really breaking it down, is the Philadelphia 76ers. Look, we've trusted the process. We've built the narratives around both of those superstars and Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. That's the heartbeat of that Philly franchise. But Mr. Mooncey, hot take. The conclusion to this season is very simple in Philly. It's make or break.
It's make or break is a little bit misleading because people often take that to think, this is your one chance to win a championship or not. Well, I don't think that's the case because, they've got young, talented players, but I do think it's make or break on this current team that they've assembled in terms of the pairing of Simmons and Embiid and adding Al Horford into the mix and paying him all that big money. Because if it doesn't work now, then there's going to have to be some real serious questions and trades that are going to have to be made in the off season, because Brett Brown yesterday at practice is talking about moving Simmons to the 4 and putting Al Horford back on the bench, and Shake Milton, who made his breakout shortly before the season was put on hiatus, coming in at that point guard spot. It's going to be a really interesting experiment because now you're going to have Ben Simmons, rather than having the ball in his hands and being forced to shoot shots by the opposition, you're going to have him potentially as the roll man on pick and roll situations where he has that incredible speed and, the size advantage on a lot of guys. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these guys play. But, they've been rolling for quite a few years now with Simmons and Embiid, and a lot of people say they can't play together. So, if they do go crashing out horribly in the first round, then I think Elton Brand and the guys in the front office are going to have to look at kind of making a few moves. But the situation, in my opinion, is really favorable for them. Embiid hasn't had to go through a full 82-game season and be tired for the playoffs. He's now had the chance to rest, and hopefully his injuries don't flare up again. And then when you look at the schedule of games they've got probably one of the easiest schedules. They've got to play the Pacers, who might not have Oladipo. They're going to play the Spurs, not in playoff spot. The Wizards, no Beal. The Orlando Magic, sorry, JD, but that's not a tough fixture.
Whoa.
Portland Trailblazers, not in the 8th spot. The Phoenix Suns, sorry, Ovie, they're not a tough opposition. The Toronto Raptors, which will be a tough game, but that's one of the last games before the playoffs start, so they might be resting players. And the Houston Rockets, who have question marks over Harden and Russell Westbrook. So it's teed up perfectly for the Sixers to get in rhythm and make a run. But it remains to be seen how far they can make that run last.
I'm thinking about putting my own time out after that comment about the Magic. But BJ, look, I'm not an advocate for anyone losing their job. I love equal opportunity. I love how the NBA really does sort of push management and head coach positions. But there are going to be questions technically around Brett Brown's position. As they've alluded to, this team has been together for quite a while. So people are looking at it like, why can't these two superstars work? So I come to you and I say to you, is there more pressure on him or is there more pressure on either of those two individuals going into this bubble?
Well, I'm going to say there's more pressure on these players to perform. And I think this is a very hot take because personally, the Philadelphia 76ers are one of the most intriguing teams that I look at their team and I love their talent. I love Joel Embiid, and in particular, I love Ben Simmons and what they bring. For whatever reason, they can't find the perfect combination or the chemistry for these two. I think they're star players too, currently exist. They did something in the offseason I thought was very interesting. They added Al Horford. On paper, it sounded great. Al Horford has always been a player who has had a lot of success individually and with the team as a center. And I didn't really anticipate or know how this was going to work out because he's always been an all-star caliber player as really an undersized center. And you can see that this combination didn't really work when he came to Philadelphia. They got rid of another all-star, or they lost this other all-star into free agency in Jimmy Butler. They bring in an all-star, and then they're this huge super team, right? I mean, they have Tobias Harris. They have Ben Simmons at the point guard position, who's 6'10", and they put him at the point guard position, but it doesn't work. The spacing, the chemistry wasn't there. What I really love, though, is them putting him at the power forward position. I think this is his natural position, a la Giannis and these guys. So I'm really excited to see them because this isn't a lack of talent. I think we all can agree when you watch them, you go, they have talent, but for whatever reason, it doesn't work. I think we're putting him at the position where he has a significant advantage. I can't think of another power forward that has the speed and quickness,
Skill set,
agility, and skill set that he will bring as a power forward. And I'm looking to see him play make, not initiate like he's accustomed to doing from the power forward position, because now I think he's going to be a monster at that position because he should have an advantage almost every night, probably with the exception of a Giannis. So I think this is a good move for them. I'm interested to see how this works because this team intrigues me because I don't think there is a player that can really contain Joel Embiid if he's playing like Joel Embiid can play. He's yet to do this, and his name is
It was Al Horford, and that's why they signed him. Because he gave Joel Embiid back the last 2 years. Just because you were wondering why they signed him. And, teams tend to overvalue players that have good performances against them because they see it firsthand. And I'm convinced that is the reason they signed Al Horford, is because if they had let him stay in Boston, then that would have been a headache for Joel Embiid every season in the playoffs. So that is, for me, why they signed Al Horford. I thought it was a crazy decision because you don't want to have two of those big bodies down there. So I agree with what you're saying, man.
Ovie, the interesting thing is we obviously have a picture of Joel Embiid, who isn't shy on social media, and his arrival into the bubble. And of course, naturally, Joel can only arrive in the way that Joel knows fashionable. But I ask you, look, as we get closer to the restart and talking about obviously this incredible introduction into the bubble, do you regard this as an important make or break season for the 76ers?
Man, when you're talking about make or break, I agree with the other guys in the sense of it is make or break for this unit. I don't think it's make or break as far as winning the championship, because I don't think, especially how things have gone this year, I don't think they're a championship level team quite yet. And it's not that they're not extremely talented. I do think that this change of Ben Simmons, I think we're going to see a big, almost like a light switch has been hit for him. I would go as far as to say I think he'll even shoot the ball a lot better, because, shooting the ball from a wing position and then, teeing it up from a 4 position, especially with his ability to get by guys and, facilitate, of course, I think he's just going to be an absolute headache. And I also think it will allow for more spacing, hopefully, for Joel Embiid, because I think that's something that, they've always struggled with. When you do have Ben Simmons as one of your primary ball handlers, those 3 guys really, really need to space the floor for you. If you're talking about older school basketball, you can have 2 bigs inside, but now even we're talking about, a lot of 4 out, 1 in. So I do think that this will create space for Joel Embiid, and it'll be interesting to see how this goes. I do think, Horford will most likely have to come off the bench. We'll see how that works. I do think he's a veteran and he'll be able to handle that change if it benefits the team. And yeah, it could be a really, really interesting move.
I think the biggest thing for me, looking at the Sixers team, we all know that they're talented. They've got the players there. There's no denying it. And they've got a huge lineup. If they put all those guys, Simmons, Tobias, Horford, Embiid, and Richardson on the court at the same time, they're an absolutely huge team. But for me, the trouble with the Sixers this season has been mostly psychological, because if you look at their records, at home, they only lost 2 games. And on the road, they could barely win. And when you break it down, of course, they were shooting a much higher percentage at home than they were on the road. But the opponent's 3-point percentage at home and on the road is got such a big difference. The other major factor for me is the amount of free throws that they give up. When they're at home, they don't give up that many free throws to the opposition. But when they're on the road, they give away tons. The opposition gets so many free buckets at the free throw line. And I think that comes down to focus and intensity of, we all know the crowd in Philly is wild. So having them behind you, it makes you lock in. And I think some of these guys are quite young, so maybe on the road they're not quite as focused. But now we're in a situation where they don't have home court advantage, but neither do their opponents. So either this is going to go one of 2 ways. Either they're going to be super seriously locked in and they're going to be nothing like the team you saw struggling in the regular season. They're going to be serious contenders, or it's going to go the other way and they're not going to be able to get it done when it counts. So, it's a really interesting on the psychological side of things in terms of having no fans in arenas, because out of all the teams in the NBA, that affects Philly more than anyone else.
Yeah,
it's so interesting.
I'll add to this.
Go on.
And I'll add to this. Out of all of the teams that we're discussing that will be down there in the bubble, Philadelphia will be the one team that you will have to re-scout, because they're going to be an entirely different team, especially with Ben Simmons at the power forward position. It's not going to mimic anything they were doing prior to this, this bubble, whatever, this restart once it begins. So I think they should play better now with Ben Simmons at the power forward position. Reason being is because he won't be the primary ball handler like he was when he was playing the point guard position. So hopefully they will play better on the road, because, well, you made a great point. They are a totally different team at home than they were on the road. And that was a major concern because at home, they could beat anybody. The problem is once they get on the road, we probably could get those guys on the road, I don't know what was going on with their team, but they were a team that they were, really, you see them, it was like two different teams. They could beat anybody at home and then they play on the road. So I think those are great points. And I'm really interested because I'm intrigued by their talent. And I love their talent. And, if it works out, they could be a team that we could be saying, hey, Philly is for real.
Do you guys think, quick question,
might hit some threes without fans booing him. That's all I'm saying.
No
one's going to be in his head.
Quick question though. If Ben Simmons literally turns into a whole nother animal and, he becomes the clear alpha dog on that team, do you think they could keep him and Joel Embiid together?
From what I've seen of the Sixers, I don't know how Joel would react to having a clear alpha dog alongside him who's younger than him and, has got this reputation. But, if any player can benefit from having no fans in the arena, obviously aside from guys like Dwight Howard at the free throw line, Ben Simmons is at the biggest advantage because now there's a lot less pressure on him hitting these jump shots. That's been the biggest flaw in his game. So as much as we can talk about him, what if he becomes this amazing power forward? What if he starts hitting jump shots? Then the league really is in trouble because then how are you going to stop him?
I don't know. Hey, Mo, you can't hear the fans, but you'll be able to hear how disrespectful the other NBA guys are.
And you hear the great
you not be able to shoot and let Chris Paul be around and see if he won't let you know about it.
I'm just saying, we've circled some surprise packages, and Philadelphia could be one of those that we should really, really keep a close eye on as we get closer and closer to this restart. But it's going to be an important couple of months for the Philadelphia 76ers and a couple of other franchises, one of which is the San Antonio Spurs. We've had a closer look at them off the court. Excellence and international, two words that have been embedded in the Spurs franchise for more than 2 decades. But for the first time since Tim Duncan walked across that stage in '97, shook David Stern's hand and became the face of the franchise, the San Antonio Spurs have a question mark over their future. But who better than Mooncey to have a look at some international suggestions for their future direction?
The San Antonio Spurs are one of the most dominant franchises in NBA history. They haven't missed the playoffs since 1997 and since then have won 5 NBA titles, led by the legendary coach Greg Popovich and headlined by Tim Duncan. It wasn't Duncan alone on the court who led the Spurs to their success though. The Big Three was formed through the additions of Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker. Parker's pace, Ginobili's flair, and Duncan's fundamentals blended perfectly. The trio quickly bonded and became the most consistent force in the NBA throughout the 21st century. Unfortunately for Pop and the San Antonio supporters though, Duncan retired in 2016, Ginobili hung up his sneakers in 2018, and Tony Parker took a quick detour through Charlotte before retiring in 2019. Kawhi Leonard was set to carry the torch for the franchise, however, he demanded a trade and well, you know how that story goes. So, what's next for the Spurs? Well, the franchise has had more success than anyone at finding hidden gems in the draft and scouting outside of the US college system to pick international players. Parker and Ginobili were the big stars, but contributions from guys like Boris Diaw, Thiago Splitter, Fabricio Alberto to name a few were key during their championship runs. With the Spurs penciled in at around the 11th spot in this year's draft, the 2 best international prospects will probably be off the board. This is Killian Hays, a combo guard who says he's modelled his game after Ginobili himself, and Denny Avdija, a 6'9" wing who has an all-round game with tons of potential. So which international prospects will be left on the board when it's time for San Antonio to make their pick? Say hello to Theo Maledon, a 6'5" guard from France who is only 18 years old but already has experience playing for the French national team during the FIBA World Cup qualifiers. Whilst he still has to get more aggressive on offense, he's a smart, skilled player who can set the table for his team and create his own shot. He's also a great athlete and brings size to the guard spot, as his 6'9" wingspan will help defensively. He's begun to be compared to OKC's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and if the Spurs can develop his game the way they did with Tony Parker, he could be a really good backcourt option in the future. Next up is Leandro Baumer from FC Barcelona. Standing 6'8" tall, Baumer plays like the hybrid of Evan Fournier and Joe Ingles. He's not the most athletic player, but he uses crafty floaters and runners to finish off the dribble, and he dishes the rock with ease. However, he has a slow shot release and doesn't shoot a great percentage from downtown, but defensively, he is fearless, and Baumer could be exactly what the Spurs need to revitalise a defence that's been on a downward spiral ever since the Claw packed his bags for the Six. If Pop and co want to go in the other direction and draft a big man rather than a guard, then look no further than Aleksej Pokuševski, the 7-foot Greek-Serbian who currently plays for Olympiacos in the EuroLeague. He plays like a guard on the perimeter. Even though he's a 7-footer, he's an exceptional ball handler, shooter, and his high IQ helps him make great passes. Having said all of that, Pokuševski weighs in at just under 200 pounds, so he'll need to get much stronger if he wants to see any minutes on an NBA court. The next few years of his development will be key in deciding whether he grows into a player like Kelly Olynyk or possibly something closer to a Dirk Nowitzki. Regardless of who they pick this season, the San Antonio Scouts will continue to search around the world for the next generation of Parkers and Ginobilis. And who knows, it might be a kid growing up in the UK right now that one day has his name called out on draft night.
Office Mo in full effect again. That's why we call him the hoop genius. Love the breakdown, my guy. But if you agree with Mo and some of those European options, please let us know in the comments below. Or if you missed one, please also let us know in the comments below as to the direction you'd love to see the San Antonio Spurs go with their new rebuild. But NBA fans, I know you've been patient, but it's our time. Let's jump into the primetime preview as we get closer to the live action. Look, we're just 2 weeks away now from returning to the live action, but let's give you a sneak preview as to what life is like in the bubble. Oh yes, believe it is a whole new game and we have to get ourselves ready as the 30th of July is just around the corner. The new format, of course, the 22 teams, 8-seeded teams per conference will make the playoffs in the total 16 teams to make the original format. Look, as you can see, it's 13 teams from the Western Conference, 9 teams from the Eastern Conference. Each returning team will play each seeded games to fulfill the regular season. And as selected from the remaining regular season games, we will get the 16 teams to make up the playoffs. And the playoff format is a little bit different this year. Yes, the normal 7 teams from each conference with the highest seed and winning percentage will go through. But to earn the 8th playoff seed, you need to have something that's a little bit special. And you need to be, if you're in the 8th seed, more than 4 games ahead of the 9th seed in their conference. If not, we ignite the play-in tournament. And if the 8th seed is 4 games or less ahead of the 9th seed in the same conference, then they will have a single or double elimination game. And to make it very, very simple for you, there is 2 games back-to-back. And if the 9th seed wins both of those games, they advance to the playoffs. If the 8th seed wins either of those games, they advance instead. And then, of course, we get the 4 rounds of the best round of 7 for the NBA playoffs. The best teams from the West, the best teams from the East, as they get them ready for the Orlando bubble. And we look forward to the finals that will be also hosted in Orlando to crown our 2020 champions. But here we go. Sky Sports NBA fans, this is what you've been waiting for. The schedule, the breakdown, everything that is going to be coming towards us live on Sky Sports that we can get ourselves ready for. And it starts off with Utah Jazz against New Orleans Pelicans. Zion will be back in the building to kick things off. And there's a whole host of games. I just want to circle one for you there. August 1st, Houston Rockets, Dallas Mavericks. You heard the latest news today regarding Russell Westbrook. It's going to be an interesting affair down there in the bubble. And everything is up for grabs. Gents, so much to break down. I know we've all read that format so many times, but I'm so glad. Look, 2 weeks left. I can't wait for this action. I feel like we've had to be patient. But Ovie, I want to come to you first, and I want to ask you if you could circle one game that you are really, really excited to watch now in this new format. Which one would it be?
LA, power of LA, easy. Clippers and Lakers, man. I want to see those guys show down, especially with LeBron at the point guard now. LeBron at the point guard, Mo. And see how these guys are able to adjust, man. But there's tons of terrific games up there. But that's the one for me.
BJ, we just spoke about Russell's sort of potential lack of a return for the beginning of the season because of obviously the COVID positive test. I ask you, does that kind of make that Houston-Dallas game even more exciting now?
Well, it's certainly going to make it more interesting because in addition to them not having Russell Westbrook and I don't know, James Harden, don't forget, guys, they put PJ Tucker at the center position. So this is going to be very interesting of how this team is going to look, the construction of this team. I think they're getting Eric Gordon back in the fold, but just saying PJ Tucker at the center position to me, as I don't know how that works. I love PJ Tucker. I love what he brings to the game, but putting him as a full-time center, I don't know about that one.
Mo, I know you haven't been excited. I know you've also been in withdrawals away from all this NBA action. So I come to you and I ask you, here's a harder question for you, my friend. Who has the biggest advantage as we come out of the hiatus now and look to resume this season?
Well, the biggest advantage is going to be a bit of a surprise, my answer. It could be the Portland Trailblazers, who have now got Yusuf Nurkic and Zach Collins returning from injuries, who are obviously out for extended periods of time. So Nurkic missed the entire season. And we're looking at two starting caliber players returning. We could see a completely different Portland side to the one that was, kind of stuck down there in the 9th, 10th seed as we return. And they might make for a very interesting 8th seed playoff against whichever team is sat in that 8th seed. So, that could make things very exciting before we even get to the playoffs. So that's going to be interesting to watch.
Gents, I'm going to ask you very, very quickly, just one name, and you have 4 options. Yeah? So we're going to go around very, very quickly. Are you going to take the Lakers, Clippers, Bucks, or the field? Mo, I want to come to you first. Prediction time.
Ooh,
one name.
That's a tough one. To win it all, I do think, and you know me, I'm a Boston guy. My blood is green on the inside. And it pains me to say this, but I'm going to go with the Lakers. I think LeBron wants to win it too badly this year. He's getting older. He realizes he hasn't got many chances left. And, I think it would bring some level of healing to the city of LA, who have had, a heartbreaking year. So, as much as I would never wish for a Lakers championship, if they're going to win one, I would rather it be this year.
Ovie, one name.
I'm gonna stick with LA just because I said LA would win at the beginning of the season, and I'd love for them to prove me right. So yeah, man, LA, Lakers.
BJ. BJ.
Well, just to be contrarian, I will say the field. Just to be contrarian. But before all of this, I was saying the Clippers. I thought the Clippers were getting healthy. Paul George was starting, and they were starting to gear up and with Doc Rivers. But because this is a very unusual time, this is the new normal, I'm picking the field. I'm picking someone that we're not thinking about is going to come out of nowhere, win the championship, and then we'll really have things for Ovie and Mo and us to really get after and here on the show. Because I don't know how this is going to play. I don't even know how these games are going to look, but I can't wait to see them.
If it's the field and it's Boston, Ovie, you better hide, my bro, because you're never going to hit the end of it.
Hey, man, hey. I'm a Suns guy. I'm not even in the discussion. So.
I
just want Ovie to wear green. If the Celtics win it, I just want you to come on the show with the Celtic jersey. You know,
I've got one ready for you. I've got one ready for you.
BJ? Don't even. That better be a KG.
Of course, it's a KG. That's powerful, whatever. You know the vibe.
Oh my gosh. Look, gents, the show has flown by. Absolute pleasure. But we are back next week, same time, same place, with the Heatcheck. You know where to find us. Tuesday, 8 p.m. on the Sky Sports YouTube channel. And it's going to be an absolute pleasure to be joined and discuss all of the latest news that's happening within the NBA. And that's before we repeat ourselves on Wednesday, 8 p.m. on Sky Sports Arena. Look, there's nothing left for us to say apart from thank you to BJ, thank you to Ovie, thank you to Mo, thank you from all of us here at the Heatcheck family. Look, in the infamous words of DJ Khaled, bless up, have a great week, create great energy, and I'll see you next week, man.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.